Scroll animations work great to perfectly control the behavior of your elements step by step while scrolling through a page. It's often used for interactive product presentations to provide a more luxurious look and feel. In this course, we'll explore the scroll animation, which you can find under the Start and End animation types in Maglr Pro. And we'll specifically cover the timing for these animations. And we'll also apply the scroll animation to a group as well as the elements inside of it, to then customize the length and the delay of these group's elements. And finally, we'll also take a look at how we can combine a scroll animation together with elements that have the sticky positioning option applied to them. So let's start with the skyrocket on this page here. We're going to make it explode at a certain point of the page and fade out. And to do that, we need to add an end animation to it. And because it has to explode, it has to move in different directions. That's why we've set up a group here called Rocket that contains multiple elements that together make up the skyrocket itself. And we're going to add an end animation to every single part of the skyrocket. But let's start with the first part. Head on over to the Animation tab and enable the End animation for this element. Next to the timeline and viewport triggers, you can find a scroll animation option. The starting point of the animation works the same as the viewport trigger, so it starts when the element touches a certain point of the screen. Upon reaching this point though, the animation only plays when your viewer is actively scrolling further down the page. If they stop scrolling, the animation simply stops too. Select the scroll animation, and for this one, we're setting the starting point to 40%. Where we could otherwise set a duration in seconds for timeline or viewport animation types, we now see a length setting with several options. This corresponds with the distance we scroll through the page, and the animation will run from start to finish across this distance, or the length we set. By default, the animation runs along a distance defined in pixels, and this is the most precise one, as you can control exactly how far you need to scroll for the entire animation to run. I can also set a distance in percentages, allowing me to scroll the distance in percentages relative to the viewport. We can also see a while sticky option that's grayed out at the moment. I'll get to that in a bit. I'll set the length to pixels and the value to 200, and I'll also select the keyframe animation type. In keyframe animation mode, I only need one additional frame. Drag it up and rotate it a bit, and then in the frame effects panel, I'll set the opacity to 0 so that it fades out while it's moving towards my first frame. I'll copy and paste this animation to all the other parts of the skyrocket, and I'll change the direction of the keyframe to make everything explode into a different direction. Let's preview to see what the animation looks like. Okay, so the skyrocket's exploding, now we need the fireworks to appear. Now, for the fireworks, we've also got a group containing an image for each of the fireworks to appear. And these should all appear at the same time when the skyrocket explodes, so we're going to animate the entire group. And because these elements are going to appear, we'll set a start animation and select the scroll trigger again. Set the starting point to 40%, and this time I'll set the length to 100 pixels. Select the zoom animation and set the zoom to 30%. This way it starts small and zooms all the way to the full size on my canvas. Let's preview to see the results. Okay, so the skyrocket explodes and the fireworks are coming in view, but I'm not entirely happy just yet. Let's animate the fireworks individually too. Select one of the fireworks and enable the start animation. Now, instead of the timeline, viewport or scroll options, we can see a notification saying animation trigger on parent group. So because we set a scroll animation on the entire group, the fireworks themselves automatically inherit this trigger type and the length of the animation. Let's set the animation type to rotate and enable the with fade option to make it fade in. Also set it to rotate 90 degrees and set the pivot point to center so that it rotates around its axis. Copy and paste this animation across all of the other fireworks. Now, when I preview, notice how the rotation of the fireworks also listens to my scrolling behavior. That's because the parent group has a scroll animation applied to it, and the elements inside the group automatically inherit the animation. The elements inside of my group also inherit the length of the group's animation, and because the scroll animation don't have a fixed duration in seconds, customizing lengths and adding delays works a bit different. In the animation settings, there's no way for me to define the length of the animation for my individual elements. We have to do that via the timeline. So when I open the timeline, you can now see that the duration for my scroll animations is calculated in percentages. When I select the firework group, you can see the length of 100 pixels at the top, but everything else, including the elements inside of my group, now show as a percentage of that total length. I can drag the handles of either the group or the elements inside of it to add a delay. However, the entire delay becomes a part of the full length. So the entire animation, including the delay, will play over a scroll length of 100 pixels. To add to the complexity, I can also add a delay to each individual element. And for each element, I can adjust the length as well by dragging the right side of the red bar. Again, everything happens within the total length of the animation, or 100 pixels in my case. So the length of my animation will never grow when I make adjustments in the timeline. When dragging the handle for one element and making it longer, I'm essentially pushing the finish line. But the total value will remain 100% or 100 pixels. Notice how the bars for my other elements aren't moving, but the values inside of them do change. They now take up less than 100% of the length because I moved the finish line. You still following?
Barely, I guess.
It's a tricky feature. You just have to play around with this and test your results to fully understand how it works. So now, let's add a delay to the individual elements to make each piece of fireworks appear just a bit after one another. The one in the middle should appear instantly, but the others need a slight delay.
Who knew scroll animations could be so complex?
And I'm not even done yet, because we can also apply the scroll animation to sticky elements. And this opens up a whole new array of customized start and end animations for these element types. And to explain this properly, we'll have to jump to another page. It's only got a title, some text and an image of a sticky hand, because I really want to focus on the feature for this one. Oh, and a scroll indicator, so my viewers know exactly where they are on the page. We're going to make the image come into view and scroll down with us, while the paragraphs pop in from the right. First, I'll use the positioning settings to turn the image sticky. Make it sticky for 2000 pixels and set the margin to 250 pixels. Notice that the Y position of the element is set to 550, so it takes 300 pixels until the element becomes sticky. Head on over to the animation panel and enable a start animation for this element. I can now see the on sticky position option, and when I select it, a drop-down menu appears. I can now select 4 different options. Before sticky start lets me run the animation before the elements turn sticky. So the animation runs first, then the element becomes sticky. On sticky start triggers the animation at the exact point when the element becomes sticky. So after scrolling down 300 pixels in my case. Before sticky end starts the animation a set amount of pixels before the element stops being sticky. So my element is sticky for 1000 pixels, and if I set the animation to run for 200 pixels, the animation will start when the element has been sticky for 800 pixels. And lastly, on sticky end runs the animation precisely when the element stops being sticky. So the element stops being sticky, then the animation runs. Note that you can only set up these customized scroll animations for free position sticky elements. For screen border sticky elements, these options aren't available. Let's select the on-sticky start option for our element and determine the length. Notice that when I click the PX dropdown, I can select the while sticky option. And this will run the animation from A to B for the entire distance the element is sticky, or 2000 pixels in my case. I'll keep the option set to PX though, because I only want the animation to run for a set length. I'll set it to 100 pixels and enable the fade step to make it come in from the left-hand side with a distance of 50 pixels. Let's also set an end animation so it fades out when it reaches the end. Set this to before sticky end and apply the same settings from the start animation, only make it fade step towards the left this time. Now, for the paragraphs, we'll enable sticky for them too. Make them sticky for 500 pixels with a margin of 250. Apply both a start and end scroll animation to them too, and make them move from and towards the right. copy and paste the animation to all the other paragraphs. Now, if we head into preview mode and scroll down a bit, notice how the image and text are fading in when the element turns sticky. Text fades out before it stops being sticky and the second paragraph comes in. And the same thing happens with the third paragraph. And then finally, everything fades out. Awesome. So, in this course, we learned a whole bunch of things. We explored the scroll-triggered start and end animations, and we found out that scroll animations play out over a scroll length in pixels or percentages, and instead of a duration in seconds. This also affected the way we could customize the length and delay of these animated elements via the timeline. And finally, we jumped to another page to discover how scroll animations work in combination with elements that had the sticky positioning option applied to them. Now you know everything to get started with scroll animations. Go ahead and play around with it, and don't forget to let us know what you think.